the thing I kind of want to talk about is, what happens, after Jesus comes, because a lot of people don't realize that, after, you know, this point when Jesus comes, there's a 1,000-year period of reign, and then the devil is let out. Well, just before this 1,000-year reign is over, the devil's let out for a little season here. This is Satan here. He's going to be let out for a little season, and this is where the Gog and Magog stuff happens. This is the latter days. The latter days are important to understand because men, even in the face of having Jesus here, running this whole show from beginning to end, they still will be seduced by Satan to try to turn on Jesus. And that's when Jesus at this point will destroy Satan completely, and then the world is a complete do-over from this point on. There's going to be a new earth created, but you will have reached second judgment. This is what Jesus is telling you to avoid as much as you can. That's the hard one, because pardon me, Jesus is going to rule, and he's going to have his kings rule under him over the once non-believers. And that'll start here. There'll all be non-believers in the beginning, but they missed the boat, and so they'll have the status of non-believers, and their children will have their status for non-believers for their entire lives, which means they will not have incorruptible flesh, because God's people at this point will have been given incorruptible flesh right after the resurrection. They're born again, and they've been perfected. And again, we'll look at Revelations a lot more closely. But just so you know, there's 1,000 years of peace, but it's ruling over a class, and it's sort of this class here has to pay taxes to God's people, and they get upset about that apparently here in this Satan makes them turn against God, and they get destroyed here, the last remainder, before the rest of them end up going to second judgment. But why does God not, want you to go to second judgment really badly? Well, because Israel after this failed. Between this and Jesus, Israel fell from grace. They did bad. They didn't do very well. This is after this, the generations of Judah go on, and they do child sacrifice and all that, like I was telling you, and that's where their generation here is being punished. The black Hebrew Israelite, the original Jew. So, what was I saying? I lost my train of thought here. Right, the 1,000-year. Oh, man, I wish I could rewind like you guys can. But a lot of information in my head that I'm trying to unpack here. Oh well, maybe it'll come to me. But suffice to say, it's a 1,000-year reign, and they're going to rebel. But right, that's the reason to bring up Israel, because Israel leaves here, and they've been given the 613 rules, that the ordinances, all that, don't eat fish, this and that, blah blah blah. Those rules are going to be perfected still. All of God's people here will have these exact rules. They're eternal. They're forever. But he's going to make us perfect so that we never make any mistakes. That's what happens when we're perfected. Israel wasn't perfected and was introduced to these rules, and they failed. Right? And that's why they needed the coming sacrifice to pull them out of this failure, because they couldn't follow the rules. The rules are too hard. God's standards are very, very high, and he wants us to hold them very high. And so he knows got corrupted flesh and failed, but he can get us back to perfect. And, this is what we're hoping for. So that he, if we're counted worthy, so that he can perfect us, so that we don't fail these rules. But guess what? When he comes back, the non-believers are going to feel his mercy. There's a lot of what we call good people. They just needed to see God to behave and really believe. They needed to see to believe. And God's like, fine, here's your mercy. But you're going to probably fail, just like Israel did. It's going to be difficult to make it. You can, but you're going to be going to second judgment to try to get in, because this is first judgment right here. This is where you want to get in, and not this. So, just a heads up, this is the long road you do want to avoid. You want to be ready over here. And what does this mean? This ready is so important. And that's what I want to talk about here in the end, is like, how do you get ready for this moment? Okay. Let's turn to the word. Now, we got to realize that the sign of Jonah is really kind of key. And so we're just going to quickly listen to the sign of Jonah here, and it'll make sense why. And I kind of build a picture of what and how we have to get ready. Because God's pretty particular. If you didn't realize this whole, like, once saved, all saved, and you don't have to do anything, is really nonsense. Because, to truly accept Jesus into your life is to truly accept everything that he said for us to do. Like, go get baptized and all these things you have to do to fall in line. And so he's got some particulars too for his people at the end. And he's done it before. As it was before, so shall be again. Back in the day, they had to put, blood of lamb on the doors, and thank God we don't got to do that anymore because the sacrifice is over. But if he was particular back then, we should look for the particulars of the present. So, he says it's the sign of Jonah. Well, let's believe him here for a second and take a look at the story of what happened to Jonah when he got swallowed into the whale. And, what it was. Because, this city was about to be destroyed. And Jonah comes in there and he, prophesies, hey, repent and change your ways. And so they show that this city, Nineveh, will show you how, because they were a great city, right? So this is a great city. How do you get out of the great city, without getting destroyed? And so this story of Jonah is very particular for us to take heed, and a warning for us, because you'll see what is required clearly of us is going to be told in this story.
So Jonah arose and went unto Nineveh according to the word of the Lord.
Start from the beginning.
Chapter 3. And the word of the Lord came unto Jonah the second time, saying, Arise, go unto Nineveh, that great city, and preach unto it the preaching that I bid thee. So Jonah arose and went unto Nineveh according to the word of the Lord. Now Nineveh was an exceeding great city, of 3 days' journey. And Jonah began to enter into the city a day's journey. And he cried and said, Yet 40 days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown. So the people of Nineveh believed God, and proclaimed a fast, and put on sackcloth, from the greatest of them even to the least of them. For word came unto the king of Nineveh, and he arose from his throne, and he laid his robe from him, and covered him with sackcloth, and sat in ashes. And he caused it to be proclaimed and published through Nineveh by the decree of the king and his nobles, saying, Let neither man nor beast, herd nor flock, taste anything. Let them not feed nor drink water, but let man and beast be covered with sackcloth, and cry mightily unto God. Yea, let them turn every one from his evil way and from the violence that is in their hands. Who can tell if God will turn and repent and turn away from his fierce anger, that we perish not? And God saw their works, that they turned from their evil way, and God repented of the evil that he had said that he would do unto them. And he did it not.
So, how do we not have that wrath poured on us?
Him and covered him with sackcloth, and believed, and he arose and put on sackcloth from the greatest of them.
Okay, so the people proclaimed a fast, so they got into a fast, and they put on sackcloth. We're gonna look at what you have to put on, and from the greatest even to the poor of them, that's what saved them. They had to fast, and they had to put this sackcloth on.
Even to the least of them.
Okay.
For word came unto the king of Nineveh, and he arose from his throne, and he laid his robe from him, and covered him with sackcloth, and sat in ashes.
So the other aspect is we're gonna have to sit in dust and ashes is really what it's supposed to be. So make sure you could have your at that end date for those last 3 days before Jesus comes on April Fool's Day. We aren't going to be the fools. We have our dust and our ashes on the ground. I would get palms and sort of burn them and get some ashes on the ground, and some dust, and just be absolutely praying and saying you're sorry to God, just like the people here in Nineveh did to avoid being destroyed by God. Ask for pleading for him not to destroy you and to love and count you worthy, and just beg for 3 days and pray mercilessly for 3 days so we can make it through this, so that and again, no, nothing. Don't let your animals eat. Even don't let anything eat or drink for 3 days in your house.
And he caused it to be proclaimed and published through Nineveh by the decree of the king and his nobles, saying, Let neither man nor beast, herd nor flock, taste anything. Let them not feed nor drink.
And just remember, as it was before, so it shall be again. And here we have something that has happened before for the salvation of people, so it probably stands to reason. And this is what God kind of broke up the word. Hopefully, we're starting to see He spread the word so that Satan couldn't destroy it. And
but let man and beast be covered with sackcloth, and cry mightily unto God. Yea, let them turn every one from his evil way and from the violence that is in their hand.
So we're going to look at the sackcloth. What is sackcloth? Well, sackcloth is made of flax, which is linen. So he wants us in linen. Why would he want us in linen?